I want to continue chit-chatting with a bit of a message. And we'll start with our title. So, how healthy self-worth people learn to not engage with dysfunction, maladaptive, unhealed trauma ways. Okay, so the maladaptive child is unhealed trauma, because the adaptive child of every human being out there, according to my attachment and trauma informational courses, which are by people who know what they're talking about, it's called the dysfunction. And I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's because people whine about doing personal development after they've done trauma therapy. And or others don't think that they need anything, and they are shaming, blaming, faulting, revenging. So they're throwing their dysfunction and their unfinished business around, as we hear them all over YouTube, TikTok, everywhere, Instagram. Oh, in fact, what you notice is people who don't know how to use their left and right mode because they are not an inner child that is leading with the grown-up. So the people who have not reparented themselves, they have no idea about their 0-1-year-old attached panicky, or their 3 to 7 shame submissive, their freeze of all ages, their flight 11-12, or their fight 14-15-16, their child charge parts that I got to learn again from my trauma courses. So when people don't know anything about being human, and you see them using stereotypes, generalizations, and their dysfunction, which again is a maladaptive child because it's now a grown-up who's living in the past, by presenting their attachment, not only category and or whatever attachment categories with the different alloparenting they had as they began life, then they moved to teenage land and they got, as an adolescent, another group of alloparenting, and so then they bring that to their relationship. So what we have is low self-esteem, indirect communicators, passive aggressive. They don't know boundaries, because canceling, blocking people is not boundaries. Actually, conversations are, but you need to have a child that is a whole 3-year-old heart. If you have defectiveness, and that's the heartbreak and that's the projection bit, then you're not going to know how to have great and awesome conversations with your higher social engagement system, which is why people don't know how to always be on, because that oxytocin gene hormone, it's on when you feel gooey, ooey, ooey here, because you are whole with believing in yourself, being yourself, your divine feminine, and you use your mind. It's free, your divine masculine. So your left, the chit chatter, doesn't make up stories about you, inner critic, or about others, outer critic. The emotions don't come forth, and you do structural dissociation and play out your home stuff, your unfinished business. So people who are open to the infinite possibilities, the 5D collective, they learn, like we learned all from Jesus, how to turn the other cheek, to forgive. For people don't know, I learned how to translate that forgiveness word to not justification, but as Daniel Siegel points out, the past is not something that will come back again. When you process your emotions, because you have integration of the brain, and that's being a somatic empath, and it's your higher social engagement system, again, it's your mammalian heritage. So you can only be open to infinite possibilities from your prefrontal cortex, and that's why a person who is a divine feminine will consistently be a nurturer and will consistently know how to handle dysfunction that comes from the adaptive child, which is that, again, unhealed trauma, because it's a heartbroken 3-year-old with a defective heartbroken 1-year-old potentially. And so I know I'm dealing with the teenage version of that, which is, it's unfair, and I'm going to be interacting with you with manners that have nothing to do with you. In fact, it's not personal. That's also why enlightenment, the soul age group of enlightenment, is very possible. You don't have laundry in here, because you have a complete relationship with your nervous system. This is embodied brain, so I'm my own safe haven. It's what you can do. So you don't do a twin flame saga or twin flames or an oversoul saga or cutting cords with people. You actually know already as a 5D that you and I are brothers and sisters. We're one big ball of energy. And like Pacha shares with Cusco, I will know that you have a heart and you're not heartless, because I can see you. And I see you with no trauma charges lingering, because I don't have any trauma charges. So when you are a person who works with your emotional plane, it's because you're emotionally accountable, you're emotionally willing to talk, and you actually know how to self-regulate. Like when my panic attacks come about, I'm not projecting that or whining about how to learn to work with that. No, I heard and learned. Now that people want to say, yeah, we all know it's uncomfortable. If you don't begin to create resiliency, so if you don't put into practice that mindfulness stuff that you can do, and it's because mindfulness helps to work your actual human being brain, but people who believe in stuff and then they don't educate with sciences and they don't want sciences and they don't, again, understand inner or outer well-being, so dysfunction, and that's because their left is chit-chatting and their right, the inner child's being suppressed. So it's structural dissociation, cognitive dissonance. There's a lot of ways that a person who's not willing to hear about how when we work with mindfulness or meditation, it retrains attention and strengthens the muscle of attention. So they help people who want to, be able to have a longer attention span. Okay, so when people care about how they're using their brain and how they're interacting with their herd, they're going to move into this plane. And when we're dealing with those who are Cuscos or squirrels, we do conversations, it's called. And so you learn how to become more and more unflappable and more quantumous from that 16 years of age and up. Because your 0-1-year-old is independent. I can thank my mother, thank you, and myself and my twin and my household, but myself too, because my embodied brain and nervous system, it's here. And I got to use this left one, the chit chatter. So traditions, values, anything you read, yeah, sure. But this is not why I will make choices. This is that little part of free will, but we also do know determined. I'm still reading that book. So the fact that what has taken place yesterday, but what takes place yesterday, I'm the one who translates it. So as our Sadhguru points out, when you have what are called new challenging situations, they are possibilities, not problems. And in fact, the inner growth mindset supports those who have emotional accountability, awareness, and desire to be their self, to do that very expansion, because it's not a challenge, it's a opportunity. So inner growth, the opportunity, and again, a possibility. I wanted to read just a little bit of Pachamama, just so you can know what this card represents. It represents the unconditional love that the earth has for all her children, including the stones, the plants, the animals, and humans. She is the goddess of earth, also known as Gaia, who pervades all creation in our planet. Thanks to Pachamama, our timeless soul can experience life in a biological body. The joy and pain we taste during our brief time on earth are invitations to discover the boundless love of Pachamama. Okay, so the whole pain thing, yeah, that is where they always bring this up. But you should remember, if you want, you don't have to, your nervous system. And the pain receptor, in fact, it actually is the emotion physical. They use, if I remember correctly from one of these interviews that I watched or an article, they use the same exact pathway. Lo and behold, though, if you ask a person who is mentally and emotionally mature, aware, we will handle mental and emotional conversations within our mind very easily and with a lot of fun. Don't bring physical pain to people who want to live, because that's the part of where we're going to be out the door. And yeah, none of us like to have any type of physical pain. But to close on out, when we're around people who are drama kings and queens, so they bring emotional, unfinished business to you, that's where they don't know that what is important in order to move beyond transgenerational trauma is that we can learn to have mutual respect for each other, grow through our exchanges, the conflict, and that can only happen, though, if you are in your prefrontal cortex talking to me. If you are not, then we won't be having a conversation, because you're going to not appreciate that we are team and different, and that we can have differences and enjoy each other. You're going to not be an effective communicator, because a dysfunctional nervous system is one that is already in their child parts. So you're projecting your low self-esteem and insecurities. So when we get low self-esteem and insecurity, we learn the right silence, and we also learn how to talk. So we'll always be a direct communicator when it comes to how a person handles us. And the whole 3-year-old heart is not ashamed. We leave thanking people for time, and we always say, you know what, we can do this again if you're having fun, though. Believing in ourselves means believing in each other. Tune in for more.